If I had a nickel for every time I talked about Final Fantasy VII on this channel, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Also, why are people paying me in American currency? But I was quite excited, or I don't know, cautiously optimistic maybe, about the remake. But I did think that it was maybe a cashless soul grab, as I like to say. I like to mess around with words. But now I've actually played Remake Intergrade, including the intermission thing with Yuffie, I get where they're going. Yes, there are still elements of this is just cash grab, nostalgia baiting, cash grab. The fact that they've split it up, I'm a bit more on board with now, but the fact they are remaking pretty much everything, because now the canon's all up in the air. Not the Junon canon, just C-A-N-O-N. But all of it is now kind of new. It's stuff that we're familiar with, but events are going to play out differently because of this thing with the Whispers. I'm not going to go over the plot. You've either watched my previous thing, you've played it yourself, whatever. It's that long that I think almost everyone who's going to watch this video knows what Final Fantasy VII and thus Remake is about. My key point here is, despite some of my caution, despite my misgivings about what could have been, I enjoyed this. I loved it. I finally get to hear all these people talking, and yes, I did in Advent Children, etc. But getting that original story now with voices and fleshing out the world, removing some of the more problematic things to a modern audience, also not a bad idea. Cloud in a dress, though, I wasn't prepared for that. I've seen videos, but I wasn't prepared for that. I have thoughts, I have feelings. I'm not going to discuss any more than that. We already know what I'm like about Pokemon. But still, there is so much here that I absolutely loved. The characterizations and how they've remained faithful to what's come before, but again, been their own thing. One of the earliest things I saw of gameplay, aside from pre-release stuff, was the voice actress for Aerith playing the game and getting so emotional at seeing what she's been working on realized in full. And I felt all of that. I could feel the pride, I could feel the care that all of these people have put into the work. And it was just such a joy to be in this world. And the side quests are weird because you only get them during certain chapters, which is fine. There are some times where you really want the plot to go forward, and it's better to remove some of that freedom to make sure the story is told and it doesn't feel like pacing's all wonky. I appreciate that entirely, no issue. But it's strange that, you've got these times when you can do it and then it's closed off. But the last chapter, you get a lot of stuff that you can do, but the previous chapters, it was already there, it was already found. Go to this place, do this thing, it's fine. In the last chapter, you kind of have to do a bit of running around. Now, I say that, but if you start one off, you'll generally go past other people with a little marker over the head, so you can pick that up, but also completing one of the ones for someone completes it for someone else. And they do interlink, so you're not going to be sat there completely lost, but I did bring up a guide to make sure. The side stuff is generally enjoyable as well. It's not just little fetch quests, they are story-based. It is fleshing out the world, giving some of the characters a lot more meaning. Same applies to the Yuffie thing. The Fort Condor thing was a fun little distraction, but it meant that you go round and you get to speak to some of these people who you can now see a different perspective during this time when Cloud's disappeared. So there's a lot here that I think works really well. One of the things that was really praised was the fleshing out of Biggs, Wedge, and Jessie. Because in the original game, you do a couple of missions with them, you barely see them after that, and then you're meant to feel sad at the Sector 7 plate collapse. You don't really have that. I mean, you feel a general sadness because of all the lives lost in the crush, and that still holds true. But now, there's a whole section where you go and steal something from Jessie's mother's home, which is problematic on its own, but you spend this time doing this mission, learning about her and Biggs and Wedge. You learn about these characters, you get their motivation, and you get that stronger bond. So when things start going bad, you can bet the waterworks were happening, and I have no problem with that. You made me care about these characters even more. 2 of which were just throwaway references to characters from Star Wars. It's a running joke in the Final Fantasy series about characters named Biggs and Wedge. But here, you forget that. These people are people. That's the important thing. And yeah, we have new characters like Marl and things like that. It's just so well done. I was cautious about the combat style. I wasn't sure I'd get on with that very well because I knew it was a hybrid. It was like action with ATB. Action builds up your ATB gauge and also just passively, but much slower than if you're actually just getting in there and smacking stuff. But then that's where your magic and stuff like that lives. And like I say, I wasn't sure about it. I also wasn't sure about the summon system, where you'll only be able to get them at certain times. And I didn't realise at first, but in certain arenas, they've got to be big enough, because the idea of these summons is they are these giant things. So if you're in a house, you're not going to summon Shiva, who is absolutely huge, queen that she is. But I did find that both of these things were fine. I had no issue with how summons worked. And I get the feeling it's kind of sometimes, oh, you're struggling. Is there a summon you can use? We'll put the summon timer up so you can have something to help out. If you've got the DLC ones, they will fit in most environments, if not all, I think. So you can have that little bit of support because they are smaller, carbuncle, cactuar, etc. They're tiny. You can fit them anywhere. It's great. I think it's a great way of just getting that extra support if you need it, like some of us sometimes. But I love the changes here. I loved how the story made those changes work. These whispers that were floating around were trying to preserve the timeline, but you're fighting against it. And you see these flash forwards and flashbacks throughout. I mean, flashbacks were a part of the main or original game, not the main game. But these flash forwards for things that can happen, we see, I guess, a future echo of one of the most heartbreaking things that ever occurred to people in the late 90s. Now they've pushed through. They've got past this barrier of whispers, if you will. Now that that's done, Aerith may survive. We even had Barrett die at one point, and I was like, is this permanent? Is this the trade? Because I don't like this either. Whilst Barrett was not one of my favourite characters growing up, I still don't think it's a good move, narratively or any other reason. But no, of course, the Whispers save him, because they're trying to keep the timeline, and he does not die in the sacred timeline. But yeah, if you've played the original, don't think that this is same old, same old. Don't think you're going to know everything. There's a lot more exploration of the world. Midgar itself is fleshed out to make it justifiably a full game on its own. There's so much to do here, on par with a modern game. There are little corners that you'll find chests and things like that, and it's well worth your time to do the side stuff because you get great little bonuses like new limit breaks, etc. There's a lot to do here. It fleshes it out. And yeah, they could have condensed the story again, maybe just made it slightly longer, done little tweaks for a modern audience, but they've really said, we want to tell an epic saga. We want to make this the epic tale that it was meant to be. And I'm fine with that. Bring on the next part, bring on the Crisis Core and Advent Children and everything else remakes that have now got to fit in this new version of things, and I'm here for them. But my voice is giving out, so I'm going to end it here. But thank you very much for watching, and as always, until next time, take care.